You know what's interesting? When we talk about loneliness, people often think it's some rare condition, like something that happens only to a few. But the truth is, it's everywhere. Loneliness isn't rare, it's real. You'd be surprised how many people smile on the outside, laugh in the right places, post the pictures that look full, but go home and feel completely empty. And here's the hard part: most of them never say a word. We've built a culture where loneliness feels like something you should be ashamed of. Like if you admit it, you're admitting failure. You don't have friends. What's wrong with you? That's the narrative. And so, people keep it quiet. They wear the mask. They carry on like everything's fine. And that silence, man, it makes the loneliness heavier. Because now it's not just the absence of people. It's the weight of pretending too. And let me tell you, loneliness doesn't look the same on everyone. For some, it's the empty weekend calendar. For others, it's being in a room full of people, but still feeling invisible. Sometimes it's walking through the grocery store and realizing no one knows where you are. Sometimes it's scrolling through your phone and realizing there's no one to call, no one to text, no one checking in. It's quiet, but it's crushing. Now, here's the part most people miss. Loneliness isn't always about numbers. You can have 20 contacts in your phone, 100 followers on social media, a workplace full of colleagues, and still not feel connected to a single one of them, because loneliness isn't about being surrounded, it's about being understood. And when you feel like nobody gets you, when you feel like nobody's truly in your corner, it doesn't matter how many people are technically around. It still feels like you're standing in the middle of a crowd with no one to lean on. But here's the important truth. If you feel lonely, if you feel like you're the only one living this story, you're not. You are not the only woman sitting in silence. You are not the only one walking into your apartment at the end of the day with no one waiting for you. You are not the only one waking up on your birthday with no text until the afternoon. There are so many people carrying the exact same ache. They just don't talk about it. And that realization, it doesn't erase the loneliness, but it gives you something powerful. It gives you perspective, because once you understand that this isn't just you, that you're not broken, that you're not strange, it changes the way you hold it. Loneliness is part of the human condition. It's not a punishment. It's not proof that you're unlovable. It's proof that you're human and that your heart is wired for connection. I'll say that again because it matters. Loneliness is not proof you're unlovable. It's proof you're human. It's proof your heart is still working the way it's supposed to. You want connection. You crave it. And that craving, that ache, that's not weakness. That's strength. It means you're alive. It means you're capable of loving and being loved. It means you're not numb to life, and that's something worth holding on to. So if you've been sitting with this weight, don't add shame on top of it. Don't tell yourself you're failing. Don't tell yourself this is forever. You are not the only one, and you are not alone in being alone. Friendship is something we grow up believing will always be there. From childhood sleepovers, high school cliques, to college best friends, you think those bonds are going to last forever. And sometimes they do. But most of the time, life has a way of shaking things up. Because the truth is, friendship isn't always guaranteed. Think about it. People move, they get married, they start families, they take jobs across the country, they get busy, and in that busy, the space between you grows wider. Not out of malice, not out of betrayal, just out of life. And one day, you look around and realize the people you once called every day aren't calling anymore. The people who used to know your every detail don't even know your current address. And that's not something anyone prepares you for. We often hear about losing relationships, losing careers, losing opportunities, but no one really talks about losing friendships. It's one of those quiet losses. No one writes you a sympathy card when your best friend slowly fades from your life. No one checks in when you stop being part of the group. And because it happens so gradually, you don't even realize how much it hurts until one day you need someone, and no one's there. And here's where it gets tricky. When friendships end or just fade, it can feel personal. It can feel like rejection. You start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Was I not enough? Did I fail at being a friend? But sometimes it's not about failure at all. Sometimes it's just the rhythm of life pulling people in different directions. And if you're standing still when everyone else is moving, it feels like you've been left behind. This is why so many women in adulthood quietly find themselves without a close circle. It's not because they're unworthy. It's not because they're unlikable. It's because the structures that once made friendship easy, the classroom, the dorm room, the neighborhood, aren't there anymore. Now you're in your own lane, with your own responsibilities, and unless you intentionally build new connections, it's easy to find yourself isolated. And let's not sugarcoat it, making new friends as an adult. It's hard, it's awkward, it takes time you don't always have, courage you don't always feel, and patience that's easy to run out of, which is why many people just don't. They accept the silence, they convince themselves it's normal. They settle for fine, but deep down, they still crave connection, and that craving doesn't disappear just because life is busy. See, friendship isn't about numbers. It's not about how many people you can list in your contacts, or how many likes you get on a post. It's about who shows up. It's about who remembers. It's about who sees you. And when that piece is missing, life feels different. It feels smaller. It feels quieter. So if you've ever wondered why your circle looks thinner than it used to, if you've ever questioned why you feel like you don't belong anywhere anymore, it's not because you did something wrong. It's because friendship, as natural as it once seemed, isn't automatic in adulthood. It requires effort. It requires timing. It requires mutual energy. And when those pieces don't align, even the strongest bonds can slip away. But here's the thing. The absence of friendships right now doesn't define you. It doesn't make you less. It doesn't make your story over. It just means this season looks different. And seasons by nature change. One of the hardest parts about being a woman without friends isn't just the loneliness itself. It's the pressure of expectations. Because society has this picture it paints of women, always surrounded, always included, always part of a group chat that never sleeps. You're supposed to have bridesmaids on call, a brunch crew on the weekends, someone to text about every little detail of your day. And when you don't have that, it feels like you're breaking some unspoken rule. It's subtle, but it's everywhere. Movies, TV shows, social media. Everywhere you look, women are portrayed in circles, shopping together, laughing together, taking trips together. And when you're sitting there without that, it's easy to believe there must be something wrong with you, that maybe you're missing the ingredient everyone else has, that maybe you just don't fit the mold. And that kind of expectation, it doesn't just create sadness, it creates shame, because now you're not only dealing with the reality of being alone, you're also carrying the weight of, I should have this. Everyone else does. Why don't I? That shame keeps a lot of women quiet. They don't talk about it. They don't admit it. They don't ask for help because they're afraid of being judged. They're afraid of being seen as less than. But here's the truth. Nobody's story looks like the movies. Not every woman has a tribe of best friends she can call at midnight. Not every woman has a dozen women lined up to stand beside her at her wedding. Not every woman has a crowd waiting for her birthday dinner. That doesn't make her broken, it makes her real. The pressure to look connected is one of the reasons so many women overextend themselves. They force connections that don't fit. They say yes to people who drain them. They keep showing up in spaces where they don't belong, all because it's better than the embarrassment of admitting they're alone. And the irony is, that kind of pretending can make you feel even lonelier. Because now you're not only disconnected, you're also exhausted from faking connection. It's important to call this out because expectations are powerful. They shape the way we see ourselves, and when society's picture of womanhood is painted as you must have friends to be whole. It's easy to internalize that message. It's easy to believe your worth is measured by your social circle, but it's not. Your worth is not in how many people show up at your dinner table. Your worth is not in how many people tag you in pictures. Your worth is not in the size of your circle. Your worth is in who you are when the room is empty. It's in your voice, your values, your resilience, your ability to keep showing up for yourself, even when no one else is around. And I'll be honest with you, society doesn't make that easy. It takes strength to stand in a space where people expect you to be surrounded and say, "No, this is my reality right now." But that kind of honesty, that kind of courage, that's what creates real connection. Not the fake smiles, not the curated images, not the pretending. It's the truth that actually brings people together. So if you're carrying the weight of expectations, if you feel like you're somehow less of a woman because you don't have the picture, perfect circle around you, let me say this clearly, you're not less. You're not broken, and you're not behind. Loneliness isn't just an emotion you feel, it's something that seeps into every part of your life. It doesn't stay neatly tucked away in the background. It has a way of creeping into your mornings, your nights, and all the spaces in between. And the truth is, it doesn't just sit in your heart, it settles into your health. When you carry loneliness for too long, it chips away at the way you see yourself. You start second guessing, you start overthinking. You start telling yourself stories that aren't even true. Simple thoughts like, maybe I'm just not good enough, or maybe I don't deserve connection, begin to take root, and the longer those thoughts sit there, the more convincing they sound. That's the silent power of loneliness. It doesn't just keep you alone, it convinces you that you're supposed to be, and it doesn't stop there. Loneliness has a way of draining your energy. It makes the world feel heavier, makes every task feel harder. You wake up tired even after a full night's sleep. You carry this weight that no one else can see. You go through the motions, but everything feels muted. Food doesn't taste the same, music doesn't sound the same, even laughter doesn't hit the same. It's like the color drains out of life when connection is missing. Physically, loneliness takes its toll too. Studies show it can raise stress levels, weaken your immune system, and even affect your heart health. But you don't need studies to know it's true. You can feel it in your body when you've been carrying isolation for too long. Your shoulders feel tight. Your chest feels heavy. You breathe shallow without even realizing it. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's physical. And here's where it gets dangerous. Because loneliness is invisible, people often dismiss it. They don't treat it like the real problem it is. If someone broke a leg, you'd rush to help. If someone got sick, you'd send them medicine or meals. But when someone is lonely, there's no obvious sign, no cast, no thermometer, so it gets ignored, and that invisibility makes the suffering worse. Because now you're not only hurting, you're hurting without anyone acknowledging it. That kind of silence eats away at confidence. You stop speaking up as much. You stop taking risks. You shrink yourself because you feel unseen anyway. And before you know it, you're not just alone. You're living smaller than you were meant to. But here's the truth we need to say out loud. Loneliness is not a small problem. It's not something to brush off or minimize. It's real, and it matters, and it changes people. It changes the way they think, the way they act, the way they move through the world. And the longer it goes unspoken, the stronger its grip becomes. If you've ever felt yourself slipping under that weight, if you've ever noticed the spark fading from your own life, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're human. Your body and your mind are wired for connection. And when that connection is missing, of course you feel the absence. Of course it hurts. That doesn't make you less. It makes you alive. And the most important thing to remember is this. Just because loneliness speaks loudly doesn't mean it's telling the truth. It will tell you you're unworthy. It will tell you you're unwanted. It will tell you you're invisible, but none of those things are who you are. They're echoes of the silence, not definitions of your identity. There's a thought I want to challenge, and it's this idea that having no friends means having no value. That's a lie we've been told, and it's one a lot of people end up believing without even realizing it. But let's slow down for a moment and look at it clearly. If friendship alone was the proof of worth, then how do you explain all the people surrounded by crowds yet still feeling miserable? How do you explain the ones with hundreds of contacts, a buzzing social life, and still crying themselves to sleep? Connection is important, yes, but your value has never been tied to the size of your circle. It's been tied to something far deeper, yourself. See, when life leaves you standing alone, it forces you into a kind of mirror. Suddenly, you don't have the distraction of constant chatter, constant plans, constant validation. What you have is you, and that can feel intimidating at first. It can feel like a spotlight you never asked for, but if you let it, that space can also become the very place where you rediscover your own worth. Because here's the truth, being without friends doesn't mean you're without value. It means you've been given the opportunity to learn how to connect to yourself, and self-connection, that's the foundation of every other relationship you'll ever have. If you can sit with yourself in the silence, if you can learn your own rhythms, your own voice, your own needs, then you become someone who doesn't just seek connection to fill a void. You seek it because you're already full and you want to share. It's easy to think of solitude as emptiness, but sometimes it's preparation, it's strengthening, it's clarity. When no one else is around, you learn what truly matters to you. You learn what you like when no one else is influencing you. You learn what kind of people you actually want in your life, instead of just clinging to whoever happens to be near. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And when you carry that kind of wisdom, you stop settling. You stop forcing yourself into circles that don't fit. You stop watering down your personality just to belong. Instead, you begin to build relationships from a place of honesty, not desperation. That shift changes everything. But let's not pretend it's easy. Choosing to reframe no friends as something other than failure takes courage. It takes a willingness to go against the message the world feeds you every day. It takes a willingness to look at yourself and say, even if no one's clapping for me, I still matter. Even if no one's checking in on me, I am still worth checking in on myself. Even if I stand alone today, I am not less. That is not self-pity. That is self-respect, and from self-respect grows confidence. From confidence grows peace, and from peace, the right kind of friendships have room to find you. Not because you begged for them, not because you molded yourself into someone else to get them, but because you were already whole. So if you're sitting in a season where you don't have friends, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not defined by absence. You are not defined by silence. You are not defined by who isn't in your life right now. You are defined by who you are becoming in the quiet, in the stillness, in the strength that rises when no one else is around to applaud it. When you've carried loneliness for a while, it's easy to believe connection will never happen for you. It's easy to convince yourself that the season you're in is permanent, but the truth is, connection can be built. It may not fall into your lap the way it did in childhood or high school or college, but as adults, connection is still possible. It just takes intention. And here's the good news. It doesn't have to start big. It doesn't have to look like a lifelong best friend showing up tomorrow. Sometimes it begins with something as small as a hello to your neighbor, a short conversation with the cashier you see every week, a smile to someone at the gym. It's those tiny acts of reaching out that open the door. They may not feel like much, but every small exchange is proof you can connect. Proof you're still capable of building bonds. Community doesn't always look the way we imagine. It's not always a group of 5 women meeting for brunch every Sunday. Sometimes it's joining a book club. Sometimes it's volunteering. Sometimes it's finding an online group of people who share your interests. The form doesn't matter as much as the effort, because connection isn't about the picture, it's about the presence. And presence can be found in many forms if you're willing to step into new spaces. But here's something important. Building connections isn't about quantity, it's about quality. It's better to have one person you can call when you're in tears than a dozen people who only show up when it's convenient. And sometimes, the way to find those quality connections is to take a step back and ask yourself, what kind of people do I actually want around me? What values matter to me? What energy do I want in my circle? Because when you're clear on that, you stop chasing everyone, and you start attracting the right ones. It also means giving yourself patience. Relationships don't form overnight. They take time, they take consistency, and sometimes they take a little courage to say, hey, want to grab coffee? Or do you want to hang out? That may feel uncomfortable, but most people are craving connection just like you are. You'd be surprised how many people are waiting for someone else to make the first move. And if you feel like you've tried and still come up empty, remember this. Support can also come in other forms. Therapy, support groups, mentors, even online communities can provide the understanding and encouragement you need while you're waiting for friendships to grow. Connection doesn't have to fit one mold. What matters is that you feel seen, that you feel heard, that you know you're not walking this path by yourself. And through it all, remember, you're not building connection because you're incomplete. You're building it because you're already whole, and you want to share that wholeness with someone else. That shift changes everything. When you stop chasing out of desperation and start reaching out from a place of self-respect, the connections you form are stronger, healthier, and more lasting. So maybe today, instead of waiting for the perfect friendship to appear, you take one small step, a hello, a text, a new space, one move toward connection, because even if it feels small, it's movement. And movement matters.